right, welcome everybody to the BYU TTO podcast. Today we have Dave Brown with us. We're going to be talking about some AI technology that's coming out of BYU called AuthentiFace. So let's jump into it. Dave, what can you tell us about AuthentiFace?
Well, first, this is actual AI technology.
Yes.
There's a trend now, lots of people labeling things AI that aren't actually. This one is.
Right.
And what it is, it's two-factor authentication. So, when you have to access a system, sometimes you have to log in, and then maybe you get a text to your phone or something like that. Mm-hmm. It's like that, but for facial recognition.
Right.
So if you're trying to get into a phone, for example, it would, like some phones do, it would see your face and recognize it, but then you do some secret motion as the second factor. So you could do a facial expression, raise an eyebrow, or you could say a word or just move your jaw away, whatever works for you.
And so it sounds like it's a really good advancement in the two-factor space, because we've all dealt with two-factor authentication, right?
Yeah.
Especially here at BYU, right? You'll log in. If it's not your computer every single time, notification to your phone, you've got to pull it out, right? If your phone's somewhere else or in your bag, you've got to find it. So this seems like a real differentiator in that space and advancement in a positive direction. What do you think?
Yeah, even email, Gmail tries to get you to set up two-factor authentication. I get it, it's more secure. What we'd like to do is switch over to facial recognition. That makes life easier. Instead of typing things, remembering things, you just carry around your face with you.
Right.
But it has to be secure. And for it to be secure, just like these other systems, it needs to be two-factor. And the second factor is some sort of secret movement that you do. DJ Lee, who's our inventor on this, is great, a very talented engineering professor, and he's worked with these sorts of problems, object recognition and this area. And so we have kind of a novel technology here that seems destined for the market.
Right. And we already have this licensed to a company, is that correct?
Oh yeah, I should mention, so this has actually been commercialized.
Okay.
We've licensed to AuthentiFace. We've assigned it to AuthentiFace, which is a startup company.
Right.
And so the opportunity here for an entrepreneur is to come up with some application and then license rights from AuthentiFace. AuthentiFace exists to create the API that does this work, that does the two-factor authentication with your face, and then there will be a series of licensees who license it for one use or another.
Okay, yeah. So just thinking through that a little bit, like if I were an entrepreneur, maybe I wanted to start something with money transactions, like a
Sure.
Venmo type application, and I wanted to have it be more secure, right? So I had a two-factor authentication, but I wanted the ease of use. I could reach out to this company that has this technology, interface with their API, and integrate it into my app. Is that correct?
Sure. So those are the steps for an entrepreneur. If you said, and what I'm hoping is people will come up with applications we haven't even thought of. I brainstormed some that we can discuss, but if you come up with some use for it, say it is a Venmo-like app, you would contact AuthentiFace. And it's authentiface.com. We'll have a link in show notes on YouTube as well.
Yeah.
And you would reach out to them, license rights to use their API for your use. Then you're going to build your software on top of the API and then do marketing and selling like any business.
Okay. You said you thought of some other use cases. What are some of those?
Sure. So these are ones that appeal to me. So you can jump in anytime you want.
Okay.
But so one is, you mentioned financial services like Venmo. What about ATMs? It's so crazy. We have two-factor authentication on ATMs. It's a physical card that someone can steal, and then you enter a code on a pad that's visible. They always tell you to cover it up. That seems like a really weak sort of two-factor authentication for something super important. You don't want someone getting at your money.
Right.
And so if you could instead walk up to an ATM, have it look at your face, you do your secret motion, and then you have access, that seems very difficult for someone to defeat and a great customer experience as well.
Yes, absolutely.
So that's one. Let's see, I jotted down a few. There's one that we've had actually quite a bit of interest in, which is in residences like hotels and apartments. We've had a couple companies approach and be very seriously interested in that. And so how that would work is, say you check into a hotel, normally they give you plastic cards. How many plastic cards from Marriott have you accidentally stolen when you left? It's this weird thing. You get your card and then you use that to access your room. Instead, on the check-in process, they would have you do your facial recognition, do your motion that is going to get you into your room, and then when you go to your room or anywhere else in the hotel, you would do that to get in.
Right.
So there was one time I was at a hotel with my son, and we were out. They had kind of a workout area. Then they had a hot tub that was outside through locking doors. So we were out in the hot tub, and it was winter. It was snowing outside, but you're in the hot tub, right? And but I had forgotten my key. So I had to walk around the outside of the hotel in my swimsuit in the snow to go back to the front desk and get a new key.
Right.
I've had to get new keys so many times. It's crazy that you have to have this physical object to get your room, especially an object that anyone else could take and then get access to your room. It'd be way more secure if you could use facial recognition and then make it yet more secure by having the two-factor.
Right, and I think that's because when I first heard of this, my concern whenever it comes to like facial recognition any kind of like biosense technology, right, is that what if somebody gets a picture of my face, right? Or what if they get my
Right.
thumbprint or whatever it is? And even if they had a picture of your face and could somehow fool the camera into recognizing your face, unless they knew your facial command, or what are we calling it?
Right, movement. Could be an
right?
expression. You could say a word that would work.
Right.
Yeah.
So if my facial expression was the word banana, right,
Right.
and the AI could recognize me saying that word, unless they both had my face and knew the command, they wouldn't be able to. And that's the two-factor that we're talking about, right?
Right. I mean, it's hard to ever say that a system is absolutely undefeatable.
Right.
But this one seems awfully close. Like, I don't know how you would get around that, right?
Right.
Where now, and also when you're doing your secret motion or saying your word, you're looking at the camera when you do that.
Right.
And then also another factor to think of with this one is the cameras are ubiquitous.
Yes.
Like, how many people have Ring devices on their doorbells? Those could all use this technology.
Right. So you could set it up to let people into your house based off of
Right.
their password on your potentially Ring hardware, right?
Right.
If Ring were to license or sub-license the technology from our startup, AuthentiFace.
Yeah, and you could have special rules. You could imagine going a few steps down the road with this.
Right.
Give the repair person an ability to enter your home during a specific 1 hour window
Right.
instead of staying around for them or something.
Yeah.
So there are a lot of functionality aspects of hotels and apartments. It's probably higher end apartments would do this just for a kind of coolness factor a little bit. It does seem like a luxury thing, but that'd be great. Another thing you might want to access is your car.
Right.
And so we carry around keys. I have keys in my pocket. Why? That's crazy, right? Cars have had keypads and other ways to get in, but when you're typing on a keypad, someone can observe your code, and you're going to have a limited number of digits. With your face, that's very complex recognition.
Right.
And then you can make your secret motion just as complex as you want.
Okay, so with like a financial institution, or with really any business, right, I can see the impact from a security and an ease of use, but how is this going to actually make me more money as a business, right? So I'm the bank, I implement this at the ATM. What are your thoughts?
Okay, so let's talk through the ATM situation.
Okay.
So where are the cash flows? And this could be created by, I don't know who makes software for ATMs. It could be the hardware company, or maybe there's a third-party company that's creating the actual software, I suspect.
Yeah.
But whoever's creating the software, the financial proposition is, first, are customers more likely to use ATMs if they feel more secure? Probably. I don't know about you. Every time I stick my card in there, there will be instructions to cover your PIN as you're typing it in. I feel weird about that.
Doesn't make you feel really safe, right?
No.
Like the security is put your hand over the keypad.
Yeah,
right?
exactly. And even at the grocery store too, when you use your debit card and you're typing in your number, it seems weird. So as a consumer, I'd be more likely to use those things if there were that security. Having more consumers use your product presumably is a good thing and profitable. But then also I would think fraud is huge. You always hear about credit card skimmers on ATM machines or at gas pumps or places like that. There's financial loss is huge. I remember the founders of PayPal talking about PayPal and how from the beginning fighting fraud was just this huge part of the project for them. I assume that's true for any financial company.
Yeah.
So if you could reduce that by having more secure access, that seems like a complete win. I guess what I'm envisioning there is you get rid of the card and the PIN and you only use the facial authentication. But that seems like a step in the right direction.
Right.
And then in terms of again, consumer use, if there are two banks and one of them offers facial recognition with this two-factor authentication versus the old way, if I'm signing up for a new account, why don't we go with the new guys? Like someone that seems a little more advanced, seems to care a little bit more about security.
Yeah.
So I would think, are there things I'm missing though?
No, but I think kind of maybe to sum that up, it's you're reducing costs, right?
Yeah.
You are increasing the use by making it easier to use, and then you're better competing against others who might have similar technology, right? But it's not as easy and it's not as cost effective. And so in all three arenas, you're able to, outcompete anybody in that space and essentially, create better profit margins for your company. Is that more or less kind of?
Yeah, I think that's true. And I think that would be true for any of the kind of hypothetical situations we've discussed. So like the Ring situation, your doorbell on your house, you could set it up with this so that maybe your kids could get in, they wouldn't have to carry a key, or you could get in or whatever. And a lot of us have Ring devices already, but for people who don't, why not? They just haven't seen the advantage. They don't want to see who comes to the door. They don't care about that.
Yeah.
But this is a whole new value proposition for a device like that. It's very secure access to your house. And like I say, you could schedule it at different times. You could do some interesting different things. And so it's providing new value with an existing product. Any device that has a camera in, you should pause and think, if we could do two-factor facial authentication, would we provide new value some way? Definitely in these cases, yes.
Right, and I would feel like in almost any case, right, if you have a camera and you're already using it for any type of interaction with a human, that this would increase the value proposition of that technology and essentially expand the market reach that you have by increasing the amount of customers who are interested in that tech.
Yeah, and for only the cost of using the API, like our cameras are covered, or our cars are covered in cameras now,
right.
And all kinds of devices are. What can you do with that?
Right, exactly. And I hadn't even thought of that with the cars specifically, because initially I went to well, you'd have to add a camera, but that's not true, right? Almost all new cars have cameras on them. Right. So by just using the right camera, you could literally walk up to your car and with your two-factor authentication, start your car, open your car, get into it, whatever it is. So we talked about this earlier, but it really is a great marriage of simplicity and ease of use and security, right? Because it's no additional features. You're not carrying something extra around. You don't have to remember some additional, special character passcode. It's just your face. You have it on you all the time. Your facial pattern, right? Whatever that is, the word that you're using, and you're in, right?
Yeah, and we all have kind of these three things we carry around all the time. Our keys, our phone, and our wallet. Mm-hmm. And gradually, I think we're going to find ways to not have any of that.
Yes.
To not be dependent on these other things. To just do everything we have with what we have on hand. Use your face and get in your device.
Yeah, and ideally, I would love to get to a point where all I need is my phone. Right? I don't need keys. I don't need my wallet. All I need is my phone. I've got my face with me already. Right? We're good to go.
Yeah. So some people, like in the hotel or high-end apartment application,
mm-hmm.
some people will say, well, hotels already have keyless entry. You just use your phone. So you're not losing your key.
Right.
Like, yeah, you use your phone, or whoever stole your phone uses your phone to get in your room. If there's some device that gives a person you don't want in your room access to your room, that's a problem.
Right.
But as long as it's based on your face, that's not going to be an issue.
And how many times, like your example, right? Do you want to go to the pool? Do you want to go to the beach? And you really don't want your keys and your phone and your wallet. You want those all locked up in the hotel room, right?
Exactly right.
So how convenient would it be to be able to go, right, and have confidence in the security of getting back into your room that nobody else is going to be able to get in there?
Yeah, exactly right. And so we should see facial recognition in a lot of places. We're focusing on high security situations, but when you go to the gym, why should you have to pull up your card or something? That should be facial recognition too.
Yeah, kind of across the board. There's so many different use cases.
And as soon as you make it easy and cheap for people to implement these kind of systems, which AuthentiFace is doing, then I think we'll start seeing it all kinds of places.
And this seems like a great marriage between simplicity to use as well as security, right? Because typically there's a bit of a trade-off. If it's really easy to use, maybe it's not as secure. But this seems like there's almost no friction whatsoever to the use of it, right? You walk up, say a word, do your facial expression, but the security still has that same security as basically all other two-factor authentication, which just seems like a really great pairing of technology and AI, and like you said, true AI technology, not just throwing around buzzwords.
Right. So yeah, totally agree. And maybe 10 years ago, I would have been like, well, biometric data, though, do I really want, like you were saying, want my face to be in a database somewhere?
Right.
But when you go to the airport now, they don't scan your passport most of the time. It seems like they just go off biometric data.
Right.
So it's out there. Like people have that. And so why not take advantage of that, but also make it secure?
Yeah, I just went on a flight a couple weeks ago, and same thing, driver's license, they took a picture of my face, and off I went.
Yeah.
So it's going more and more down that road, I think.
And it is very convenient.
Yes.
It's a nice thing. So
it was a lot more convenient than, okay, where's my boarding pass? Do I have the right form of ID, right? All those types of things.
And so for this technology, I'm thinking it could be a little bit like Tesla model where you target high-end uses and then make your way down to more common uses. I don't know if it'll go that way or not. But one other compelling aspect is like super secure things.
Yes.
So government agencies, the bank vault, things where security is a premium. Some people might want to do this in addition to what they're already doing.
Right.
Just as one more layer of security. So that's possible. And then, a final thing I thought of was just websites. Like banks often have you do two-factor authentication, credit cards do.
Yes.
It would be nice to do it this way. You already have a camera on your laptop, why not?
Right, exactly. And more I feel like you're being required to not only like log in, but you have to actually create an account for every single site that you want to use these days, right? Because security is becoming a huge issue.
Right.
And so I know for me, like it's become a pain point to where I will not use somebody's website if I have to create an account. But if I had this type of technology where I could feel secure in creating the account, and I don't have to remember, a million different passwords, did I use an asterisk or did I use, the question mark as my special character on this password, where I could just come up with a passphrase, use my face, right, have the security, and virtually no friction, right? I would be more willing to try a few more sites, I think.
Right, and also it does seem like cybercrime is at a high level. I've had people hack into my financial accounts before.
Right.
Like yesterday, a relative texted that had just happened to them. It's so anything that's more secure probably has some demand behind it too.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay, so remind me one more time about the steps. I'm a business. I have some sort of technology. Let's say I want to compete with Ring, and I want to set myself apart. I want to set up all of my users with facial recognition, this facial password through AuthentiFace. What would be the process of acquiring the API or getting access to that for my technology?
Okay, so like you say, the company exists. So let me give you a little background on the company for a second. So DJ Lee is a great inventor. In March, his other object recognition technology, AI technology, Smart Vision Works, that company exited. There's a great video on our YouTube channel with Chris Bryant talking about that process a little bit. And so he's been through these steps. That company was one where he and 2 grad students set up the company. And it took them a while to find Chris, who was the right business person to kind of take this thing forward.
Right.
And they exited in March, and it was great. It was a fantastic company. So we're kind of following the same model here, where he has 2 grad students who have worked on the technology. They're co-founders, and then we've gotten other pieces right. Like we've gotten the business person in there on the front end, and the company seems very credible, funded, like very well suited to succeed. So that's the company that creates the API. And then you as the entrepreneur, reach out to them, contact them, look at their website, there's contact information, and enter into a license to use their API for your application, whatever it is. And that's between you and them. It doesn't involve BYU.
Right.
We wish you luck. I think it'll go well. I hope it does. And then you enter that agreement, and then you build your software on top of the API. And there's so many services out there built on top of other services.
Yes.
Like that's a common thing to do. So create your software. And then depending on your niche, like however you market it and sell it, that's how you run your business.
Okay, fantastic. And this is patent pending technology, correct?
Yeah, and that's one more piece. We were pretty careful about the patenting strategy. As you can imagine, facial recognition is a crowded space.
Yes.
But we think we have some really meaningful, good protection. And at any rate, at this point, definitely the only show in town for this sort of technology.
Fantastic. So that really seems fairly straightforward, right? If you're going to be an end user of this technology, it sounds like all the pieces are working in the background for your benefit, so you can take advantage of this technology sooner rather than later.
Yeah, absolutely right. And like I say, DJ has some experience with running this sort of company. We try to help our BYU companies as much as we can. So if anyone had questions about what resources are available, we want them to reach out to us as well.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay. Well, we talked a little bit about use cases. What is the thing that gets you most excited about this technology? I know we've probably touched on it a little bit, but specifically excited, what do you think?
Yeah, I think the most exciting part is seeing unique things that people will do with this technology. So like I say, it's an API. You can build all kinds of things on top of it. Right now, we're in an interesting space with artificial intelligence generally, where we're just seeing, like, I use ChatGPT incessantly, and I've used many of the other tools because I'm just excited to see what you can do with it. And so this is a new AI technology. This is 2-factor authentication with your face. What will people do with that? I don't know. I mean, maybe the best application is going to be something trivial that I didn't see. Like maybe there's something awesome to do on Instagram with it. I don't know. But also maybe someone will come up with something really cutting edge that we haven't thought of. So the excitement is seeing what entrepreneurs create. And as an entrepreneur, you have to think, what value am I creating here? DJ's already created something really valuable. This API is awesome.
Right.
But what are you going to create on top of it that's unique and solves a problem for people? I don't know. I'll be really excited to see.
Yeah, and I think that's one of the things that it's always hard because I always go to a certain place, right? Based off of my experiences, this is how I would use this technology. But I think you're right. I think that there's so many different ways that it could be used and things that we're not even considering, that I really like the business model they have set up, where it's an API where anybody who wants to use it, just like ChatGPT, I can reach out, get a license, build it into their business, and I'm really excited, same as you, right, to see how creative people get with the use of this technology.
Yeah, and often with technologies and tech transfer, we have to kind of pick a winner in advance. We have to, it's usually we take a technology and license it for a specific use case, like, okay, this could apply to animals or humans or food, and we're going with the human application. Just pick one field. But here, because of the way that AuthentiFace is running its business, we'll be able to go in all kinds of different directions, and it'll be great.
So we've talked about some high-end, maybe more security-focused type applications, finance, getting into your room, air travel, things like that. Yeah. What is maybe the simplest application that you can think of that's maybe not overly critical from a security perspective, but that could be implemented maybe by a student team of entrepreneurs?
So the lowest end application, a student startup would want to do something that uses a device that already has a camera. So the phone would be probably the easiest one.
Right.
And what's the easiest way or the simplest thing to do for access with a phone? Probably the lock screen.
Okay.
You could have an alternative lock screen, Android, iPhone, doesn't really matter. And you would use the two-factor authentication for that. It actually already exists. A couple of years ago, they demoed this on a phone in Dr. Lee's lab.
Oh, nice.
So there's some version of the software out there. Maybe you could get that from them. I don't know.
Right.
But you would do just look at your phone, do like you would on an iPhone, except with your special motion.
Okay.
And you'd have a more secure way of accessing your phone. Certain people would want that. They would see a need for a little more security on their phone,
Oh, yeah.
or at least moving on to something higher end. And maybe it might be, is it fun to use? I think it could be. Like, it could be an interesting way to access devices.
Yeah.
So that seems like the simplest route, but what do you think?
Yeah, so if I'm understanding maybe this use case correctly, student startup, no hardware associated with it, and essentially lock screen on your phone, right? Either Android, Apple, iPhone, whatever it is. And you would get some bonus security, right, with the two-factor authentication. We've all seen the videos where somebody's asleep, somebody takes their phone with the Face ID, puts the
Right.
camera up on them, unlocks their phone, now they're in. So you get the additional security, but the actual software behind it would be fairly simple using this API from AuthentiFace.
Yeah. Don't have your secret face motion be like sleepy face.
That would be a bad, right,
that'd be a bad
resting
idea.
face,
Anything other
yes.
than that.
Anything
So,
other than that,
yeah.
okay. No, I think that's fantastic. Well, other than that, what else did you want to talk about with AuthentiFace? I feel like we covered all the bases, where the technology's at, the API. What else can you
Yeah,
think
so
of?
some people might want to just learn about the technology a little bit.
That's right.
So I should mention that 2 years ago, when it was in the early development stage, when we had proof of concept, but we just weren't ready for the market yet, there was a round of publicity. Our public relations department at BYU is great at reaching out to people, and I think this got in like TechCrunch, Gizmodo, Engadget, like that level of kind of tech blogs. So if you just Google AuthentiFace, I think they were calling it that, but Google DJ Lee facial recognition, and
You'll
it'll
pull
come
up some
up.
of those articles.
There are a bunch of articles, and you can see people covering some of the topics we have, like concerns, does this improve things, how hard would this be to do, et cetera. And then just a little discussion of it. To me, that's a sort of validation. It showed a high interest of public interest,
Right.
Because people were responding and engaging with the technology. Now we're 2 years down the road. We've got the patent in place and the business in place, and we're kind of ready to roll. So it's time to hop on it. If you're an entrepreneur who wants to be involved, like now is actually the time.
Right. And as an entrepreneur, that's something that I don't think it can be overstated just how much value goes into some of these things, right? If you think of a team of researchers working over 2 years, right? Because 2 years ago were when those publications, so
Right.
they already had some technology then, and then 2 more years of development. I mean, to try to pay for that as an entrepreneur out of pocket, I don't know, astronomical, right?
Right.
But to have this business now set up, Tech Transfer has been, involved in getting them set up and making sure that they're set up for success. And now you have access to all of that research and all of that time and all of that value that's been put into it. I think that that's tremendous as an entrepreneur.
Right, and in that Chris Bryant interview, it's on my mind because it just went up last week,
Right.
but he specifically touches on this. When you go to a university, you can get some technology that millions of dollars have been poured into,
Yes.
and you get that essentially for free to build your business on top of.
Yeah.
Pay a royalty or something once you're successful, but that's kind of the opportunity, and it's great. So in this particular case, there are probably some low-hanging applications that a student startup, first-time entrepreneur could do that would be not too hard. You could think of access to something that's not Fort Knox, like
Right.
social media logins or something like
Yes.
that. That would be great, or something with your email. That would be terrific. There are also some things that would be way high-end with physical components, like if you wanted to compete with Nest or something like that.
Right.
Not Nest, Ring, so another device.
Yes.
Maybe you could do something for thermostats, work it out. But
I'm sure you could. Right?
yeah, but if you wanted to compete with something like that, then that's pretty high-end. You're making a device, and it's going to be complicated. You're going to raise funds for that. So there's, for different kinds of entrepreneurs, there could be different applications is what I'm saying.
Okay. Yeah. No, I think that that's just amazing, right? That whatever you think of, whatever's creative and meaningful to you, there's probably a use application with this technology.
Yep. So good. So go ahead and reach out to AuthentiFace if you're interested. We'll be excited to see what people do. If you have questions, especially student entrepreneurs, of what resources are there, how would I fund this, et cetera, then come talk to us.
Okay, fantastic. So basically default, if you don't know where to start, reach out to us. We'll point you in the right direction.
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay, awesome. Well, thank you, Dave.
Good.
Appreciate the conversation. That was AuthentiFace.
Great. Thanks, Bennett.
Yeah.